Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another weekend review. This is The Informant coming to bring you some of the most important news of this past week in bite-sized format, as I am still going to be doing independent, standalone topic videos as opposed to one long-winded video. Haven't had a chance to actually check to see if there was any feedback on any of the channels that I post on. So I'm going to continue doing this just because it's easier. It makes processing the videos a lot quicker, and I feel like I can get this done quicker. So the first thing I want to bring up, obviously, is this ridiculous idea that the Democrats have coming from Nancy Pelosi. This is one of the many articles that's been written about it, but this one is from the Business Insider. A bill that would set gas price limits and prevent, quote, exploitative cost hikes is headed for a House vote. So basically what this is price controls, okay? Price controls on gas at a time where we have record inflation and record energy costs that are continuing to rise in the ever increasing crisis that we're having across the globe. And no, here in America, this is not because of Vlad and his escapades in Eastern Europe. Sure, it doesn't help because the world decided to do an overcorrection on the issue and pretty much ban the country Russia from the planet. And in a sense, all of the commodities that they export, which of course drives energy prices up. Now, that was a decision made by the West and the West alone. That was not a decision that needed to be made. This was, in my opinion, an overreaction, basically to make ourselves feel good by inflicting pain economically on ourselves. So this energy crisis was long before the invasion happened in Ukraine. This has been brewing for a while. This all started with the cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline. That's when gas prices first started to go up. You can go back and look. As soon as those plans were axed and federal lease agreements were pulled for oil and gas drilling companies, offshore drilling was pulled. I mean, pretty much everything you could think of was pretty much scrapped when it came to being energy independent and relying on our own rich natural resources. That's when gas prices first started to go up. And then it continued to spiral out of control. So now, because of inflation, because of the war and the overreaction to that war, everything has spiraled out of control. And these price controls are only going to, proposed price controls are only going to make things worse. All you have to do is look back to the 1970s under Richard Nixon, when he decided to do the same exact thing when there was an oil embargo in the Middle East, and OPEC we weren't taking in any oil from OPEC. There were massive gas shortages, massive lines, and gas hoarding. People were going without fuel. Gas stations were consistently out of gas and were having to be placed on back order for any additional gasoline, which was in very short supply. And not only that, these price controls, the reason why it's going to be worse now is because gas was so cheap back then relative to the amount of money that people made, and the value of the dollar and all that stuff. When you take that same commodity and you adjust for inflation with people's wages, it's actually more expensive now because wages have stagnantly grown as costs of living across the board have continuously gone up, especially now. So these price controls, as I said, are going to make things so much worse because, one, there's more people, there's more domestic travel, and I'm just like at a loss for words. These gas stations, which are independently owned, rely on these oil companies. They pay these oil companies for the gasoline. If these gas stations are unable to increase the prices to match what the cost of the product, think of it like a business. Remove gasoline for a minute. Think of it as a business, and you're selling a product, and you're doing really well. Well, let's say the government comes in and says, hey, you're not allowed to raise the price on this product at all. And then the product that the things that you need for this product that you buy, those prices start to go up, and they continuously go up. But you're not allowed to increase the sale price of what you're selling, despite the fact that your business expense is continuing to grow. Well, what does that do? Well, that means that in order for you to stay in business, you can only afford to buy a certain amount of said product to sell in order to offset the rising cost of it, which is how gas shortages happen. Gas stations will continuously have less and less gas available in their tanks because they can't afford to order the same amount that they usually get because the price is more. They're not going to put themselves in a hole just to appease customer demand. They have to think for themselves. We're dealing with human beings here. We're not dealing with some mega corporation. And everybody wants to talk about price gouging. I'm like, and that how it's the oil companies that are evil. To be fair, yes, oil companies make an absurd amount of money, but anybody who has any lick of business sense knows that, you don't just wave a magic wand and oil and gasoline just magically appear, available to the general public. You have to pay insane amounts of money to not only get the product from overseas, because we can't be bothered to do it ourselves here. From overseas, you have to do the shipping costs to bring it here, and then you have to pay the refineries that actually refine that oil down into whatever gasoline that you are trying to purchase, and then you need to transport it. And then on top of all of that, there's taxes, there's import costs, there's and then of course there's there's all kinds of stuff, and then you make that up by selling it to the general public. I mean, it's a long chain of custody for this type of stuff. Okay, it all costs massive amounts of money and resources, and it's the same argument for like minimum wage stuff. People don't think that because McDonald's is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, they can afford to pay their French fry cooks $20 an hour. No, it doesn't work like that. So, it's literally the cost of doing business. You have a cost, you have a good, you want that good, you pay a price. If the stuff that goes into making that good continues to rise in price, well, what is the business supposed to do? I already made that example. So this, of course, is going to cause massive problems. Nancy Pelosi announced a bill that would crack down on exploitive gas prices. I really hate how they word this. It's just so misleading and treats the general public like idiots. And it's apparently headed to a House vote, but is unlikely to garner the necessary Republican support. But again, don't underestimate the power of rhinos and fake Republicans. Pelosi and other Democrats said oil companies are taking advantage of an international crisis. They just think that these oil companies are just immune to the problems that are going on in the world. Like I said, granted, the CEOs and board of directors, sure, they're making plenty of money, but look how fast a bank like Lehman Brothers went under during the 2008 financial crisis. Within weeks, they were filing for bankruptcy because of the housing market crash. This stuff is highly volatile. Now, of course, there's a difference between housing crisis and oil, but my argument still stands. This stuff could all come crumbling down at any second. The more dumb decisions that governments decide to make. I mean, I think it was just a few days ago that Europe is looking to have trade embargoes on Russian oil, and which is all they depend on. It's lunacy. So Congress will vote next week on a bill that would prohibit excessive gas prices. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe that gas prices are excessive, but it's a disaster of our own making. You know, we have no one to blame but ourselves for this. But of course, this is the administration that lacks any responsibility and any self-awareness. The legislation would enable President Joe Biden to issue an emergency energy declaration, making it illegal to increase gas and home energy prices in an exploitative manner. The bill, titled the Consumer Fuel Price Gouging Act, oh my God, the way that they word these, would give the Federal Trade Commission the authority to crack down on oil companies with over $500 million in annual consumer sales. In a press conference, see, if this actually passes and this thing extends, I wonder how many jobs are going to be lost in order to cut costs on some of these businesses. This is how you know none of these people have ever run a business ever in their entire lives. And if they did, they'd be out of business in a month or 2 months or in a year. In a press conference announcing the legislation on Thursday, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said price gouging needs to stop. While families are struggling to pay higher prices at the pump, oil and gas companies are recording record profits. Of course they are, because the price is going up. I mean, what do you expect? See, no one... How about price gouging for cell phones? Do you have any idea how look how expensive these freaking cell phones are nowadays, and how they're pretty much designed to fall apart after a certain amount of years. That's why I refuse to upgrade my phone whenever they say I should. I've had the same phone for, 5 years, 6 years maybe, and it's still working fine because I do a good job of maintaining it. The bill is unlikely to receive Republican support needed to turn into a following Pelosi's announcement. Some Republican lawmakers took to Twitter. So today, Nancy Pelosi and Schumer blamed price gouging for high gas prices. Also today, Senator Granholm said, "I'm not sure anyone is saying there is wholesale gouging. Either Democrats can't get their talking points straight, or even they know their claims are ridiculous." And I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest. So it's the latest attempt by Democrats to address surging fuel prices. Yeah. Democratic leaders have also considered creating initiatives to incentivize U.S. oil companies to ramp up production. Oh my God. Keystone XL pipeline, anybody? Remember that idea? And here we go. Here's the kicker. Pelosi said Russia's invasion of Ukraine is largely to blame for elevated gas prices. No, it's not. Your overreaction to this whole stupid thing, this whole stupid war, is to blame for the elevated prices. Has absolutely nothing to do. The sanctions, not only that, but also refusing to maintain energy independence in the world, is the reason. I am sick and tired of hearing this Putin tax cut hike, which doesn't even make sense. I'm so tired of this because it's literally just throwing the blame wherever, in all directions, and seeing where you can get it to stick. And right now, it's barely hanging on to here because I think everyday people at this point don't give a flying what's responsible for the gas prices. They just want that stuff to come down. They don't care what's behind it. They don't care about any of that. They just want it to stop. So they railed against the oil companies. What's infuriating is that this is happening at the same time the gas and oil companies are taking advantage of an international crisis. Weren't these the same? Isn't this the same party that just said a few days ago, "Don't let a good crisis go to waste"? Wasn't it one of your own representatives who said the quiet part out loud? These hypocrites, I'm telling you. Anyway, with that being said, that's pretty much the gist of this article here. But there were, of course, a few tweet screenshots. So breaking, and this is another thing going into this whole thing. The Biden administration, this happened on the 12th. This happened 2 days ago. The Biden administration cancels oil and gas lease sales in Alaska and the Gulf of Mexico. Gee, I wonder why oil prices continue to go up. So this is Sarah Gonzalez. When will people finally realize this is a manufactured crisis? They're doing it all on purpose, and they don't care that you're suffering. And I have to agree at this point. They're breaking the glass. In case of emergency, break glass, and they're just going full throttle for this new woke green agenda. And Razorfist / Rageaholic YouTube channel said this weeks ago. This is a demolition. Okay, this is a planned demolition of this oil economy. Here, bill to let president make gas price increases illegal. Here you are, folks. This is what's coming. This is what's coming. If this passes, I'm not saying it will. It doesn't look like it has enough support. But like I said, never underestimate rhinos and stupid Republicans. Okay? There's plenty of them in Congress, especially the ones who voted for this $40 billion Ukraine aid bill, which I will get to in a later video. So, till then, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, share, get the word out. Save as much gas as you can, folks, and I will see you all in the next one.